So in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to attach this to this and remove this. Hey everyone, welcome back to the lab. Today on the bench we have this cheap Amazon LED light. They're found for around $40–50 for a pack of 2. Looks like it's just a simple circuit board. You can see a couple connections up there in the top, and then a little controller. When you plug it in, it has this controller which comes on, and when you turn it on you get a light, right? So we'll just point that away from the camera so it's not as blinding. So in there we also have the brightness control, and we have like color tone control. And I don't know if you kind of can't really see it, but it's 2 separate LED packages on the main display. All right, so in between those 2 LED packages, let's turn that off. So we've got the 2 on the outside, and then in between we have what looks to be an RGB addressable LED. And the way I found out that is an RGB addressable LED is by turning it on, switching over to the RGB mode, and then switching through the cycles. So these don't tell us much. This just tells us, like, you know, they're all the same color. But as soon as you get to that, tells me it's an RGB addressable LED, right? They're all different colors. So knowing that, let's get this taken apart. 4 screws on the back removes the back panel. All right, so back panel's apart. We got our screws. We want to keep those. We're going to need those later. We're going to take the back panel, or the front panel, off, I guess. And then there's 4 more screws, also, as long as you're careful. So before we get this apart, there's a few things on here that I'd like to note. We've got the board make number. We've got some 5 connections up here at the top, labeled 5-volt VSS, D1, W negative, and Y negative. Then we have a whole bunch of W and Y LEDs. So probably white, yellow, if I had to guess. And what looks to be a bunch of resistors on the side and a little capacitor across the input. So if we pull this out, got a little attachment for the wires coming in, and it turns out that these wires are just direct lines out to this controller. There's no extra circuit board or extra ICs on the back, just a couple resistors for voltage limiting, current limiting, sorry, and then those connections at the top. Now, that DI or D1 says digital input or digital 1. That is the digital control signal sent to these LEDs. So these LEDs communicate with each other and then back with this controller. So this controller sends out a signal to all of these. If I had to guess, they look like WS2812 LEDs, which makes it super easy to control with something like this ESP32 here. So in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to attach this to this and remove this. For now, I'll be just taking the cord out and desoldering all the wires. Later on, we will add back a USB cord to power it, but for now we'll just use a power supply and some cords, some cables for it. So yeah, let's get started. All right, got the soldering iron, and we are going to start taking these pins off one by one. So heat it up, and I'm not going to be super careful. I'm just going to pull this wire out and then just use kind of the pressure to remove the pins. Now that that's all removed and desoldered, we want to solder new wires onto that. So I'm going to get something that will allow me to plug into this, and we're just going to use the USB that attaches directly to this. So we're going to use the power in pins on the side there. Alrighty, now that we've got all these wires ready, we're going to tin them, and then we're going to solder them to the board. So these aren't the largest wires. Sorry, my hands are a little shaky. But they will do for our tests. So ideally you'd want to use larger wires or more of them for higher current capacity. But considering we're going to be limited to what the ESP32 provides through its V-in pin, we should be totally okay. So, since I don't have 3 hands, I'm going to be using the soldering wire to keep itself up. I'm just going to warm up the soldering iron again. Just enough on there so that we can use them to attach to the board. So we're going to attach to the board. Go. All right, now that that's done, we're going to connect it to here after we upload WLED onto this microcontroller. So let's get to that. Alrighty, I have the WLED installer here, and I'm going to be plugging in thing, and you hear the Windows install sound, or plug-in sound. Click install, we're going to want to click our CP2102. It's going to connect. We're going to want to say install WLED. Yes, this is a brand new ESP32, so it should install in a minute or so, and then we'll be able to hook it up. Alrighty, now it seems that finished. I know it says it's got an error, but it did finish, I believe. So we're going to want to connect to WLED. So when we open this up, there should be a WLED AP in your Wi-Fi settings. Alrighty, now after fighting with my computer to get it to connect to the access point, we now have WLED. So in here, we could set up our Wi-Fi settings. We're not going to do that right now. We just want to go to the controls. So we're going to go to the controls, and we want to set up our LED preferences. So I know here there's 48 RGB LEDs, and they don't skip any. So we're going to do start, 0, length, 48. So that'll actually stop at the 47th LED, but because it starts with 0, yeah. So 48 LEDs, and we are going to assume it is a WS2812 of some sort, but that doesn't really matter for here, and our color order may not be correct, but we can fix that later. So our GPIO is 16, so we do have to look up which GPIO pin that is on here, so we're going to go look that up. Now we have an entire display on currently. Now it's probably drawing a lot of current, so we don't want to leave it on. We want to actually set it to off. Looks like the colors are correct, so we're going to go through green, blue, and red. All right, yep, colors are correct. We're going to take our brightness down so it's not as harsh. So our colors are correct. Everything works. Our blink rainbow seems to work as well. Let's do like something like this, right? So we got our cool designs and everything through WLED. So now what we're going to want to do eventually, and we might do this in a future video, is hook up the white LEDs and then possibly make modifications to WLED so that it supports them, or we build a completely custom application. But for now, these wires can just fold around the back. And we're going to take this little plug out. There we go. Alright, now that it's back together, when we plug it in, it should still work. And do its standard boot up for WLED, which is an orange. We do need to reconnect to it. I'll do a video later on with this and this ESP32 or another one all set up on how to configure E131 and your Wi-Fi settings in WLED and all that. But for now, that'll be the end of this video. Make sure you comment and subscribe with your questions, and I can answer them in the next one. Subscribe so you can see the next one, and like the video if you want to see more of this content, and I will see you in the next one.